Our first episode, we have Rob Russ, live with Rob Russ. Today, we're joined by Professor Rob Russ, who recently participated in a global area of study experience through Harper College's Global Education. Rob spent 2 weeks in India as part of a faculty development initiative focused on South Asia. We're going to talk about what professional development looks like through a global lens, how immersive international travel can shape the way we teach, and why it's so important for faculty to get out into the world. Rob, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. This is my first time here.
Oh, isn't it a great station?
It's beautiful.
It's
this
beautiful
is wonderful.
in here. This is a great station that we have. Award-winning, by the way.
Very lucky to have cutting-edge materials here and throughout the campus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome faculty.
Well,
So Rob is in the business department. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
oh, sure. I started at Harper as an adjunct in about 2008. So I've been here a long time. A full-time opportunity came available about 4 years ago, and I applied and got the position. Very excited to be here and share my experiences. I'm looking forward to it.
So what inspired you to do the global education travel to India? How did you come up?
Yeah, that's a great question. To be honest, I wasn't interested in it at the outset. It wasn't even on my radar. Back before COVID, there was a GEC class that was going to culminate to the India field study. I was not involved in that. And then the field study to India was resurrected after COVID. Towards the last minute, I got an invitation to go. Just to give you a little bit of background, have you ever seen the show Jack Whitehall Travels with My Father?
No,
No.
I have been watching it,
what's
which
that?
I love.
What?
Stanley Tucci's discovering Italy, and he goes to every region of Italy and talks about their food. I love food and Italian food. It's an amazing show. Check it out.
I need to catch it.
I need to check out the
Yes,
other one.
Travels with My Father.
Yes.
And quickly, just to frame this, I'm not a good traveler. I've never been a good traveler. I love destinations. I love when I'm there. But the process of traveling for me all my life has been a curse, something that I've avoided, unfortunately.
So you pick India?
What happens?
With like, how many hours of a flight is that?
Well, depending upon connections, it's 22 to 26 hours of
Oh, my
flight.
goodness.
That doesn't include transfers.
Goodness.
Yeah, so it should be up to 30 hours for the trip.
That's what you
So-
picked, mister. I don't
And
like to travel. Okay. Continue with the story, which is probably going to be, for a lot of students, be the same, their first experience, and they don't know how to travel. So
Right.
they're in the same boat, and other
Right.
faculty as well.
Right. Despite all of that apprehension, I would do it again in a heartbeat. For any students who think, oh, I have to get on an airplane and I need my passport, don't worry about it. Particularly the programs that we have here at Harper, my experience was that they did so much hand-holding. We engage with professional native organizations who can really give us an immersive experience overseas, not only on this trip, but I hear that from others who have traveled through
Yeah.
programs in Harper. Universally good experiences.
What were your first impressions when you landed? When you landed at your final destination, let's say that.
It reminded me of the adage that talks about learning, where we sort of picture the mind and we have what we know. You've probably heard this before, right? I know 2 + 2 is 4. And then we know what we don't know. I don't know the square root of, but I know how to calculate it. So I know what I don't know.
Right.
Worst of all is not knowing what you don't know. And so landing in India was really that experience personified. Seeing things for the first time that I had no frame of reference for was just jaw-dropping. To look around and take in the smells and the sounds and the sights, it was just really a stimulating experience and exciting. I could feel the adrenaline flowing based on the stark differences alone. It was just fascinating. I felt comfortable, invited, and excited to learn more.
That's awesome. And, I've traveled a lot in my life. I mean, besides traveling all over the Soviet Union, we didn't really go into what are other countries now. They were not other countries at the time. That was my first experience as a child. So I've been to like probably somewhere, if not in Latvia or Lithuania. And then we went to Ukraine. I've been there as a child. So I kind of got used to that shock when you travel. But then we immigrated. Every single step of the way was like being on an airplane. Wow, you're on an airplane and then you go to a different place. So I'm kind of used to that shock to the system. I go to different places and I'm like, okay, next. But I totally understand that shock when you show up and everything is, the shock isn't bad. The shock is just excitement, of being in a totally different place.
Right.
Anything that stuck with you professionally or personally out of the whole experience?
What really stood out? So many things stood out to me. Most broadly is the sheer wisdom that I was able to glean from India, speaking to leaders, non-government organizations, and all of the people we had the opportunity to interact with. It's amazing the ingenuity that you can discover in India. I was just talking to a colleague the other day how when you go into India, while things may not be automated and computerized, they have ingenious methods for solving problems. I remember visiting one of the sites and we were going to scale a hill to look at some of the artwork in the caves. Clearly there's no elevator and nor are there stairs, steep paths. But what they had was just a bamboo chair, and fastened to each side of the chair were bamboo poles. 4 people could each grab a pole, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. The person can sit on the chair, and they simply carry them up the hill so they can enjoy the sights with other people.
That's awesome. We don't think of that anymore because we're so industrialized and we have all of these tools that you can do it simply like that.
I'm sure you have experiences of the ingenuity beyond technology.
Right.
Seems to work just as fine.
Maybe we need more of those exposures to non-technology solutions for students so that they can see, because we do not realize how much we rely in the United States on technology.
Right.
My watch, your phone, we don't know where we're going anymore because GPS tells us where to go. Apps run my life. I have an app for when I'm eating, when I'm exercising. Everything is done with some sort of technology aid. And I don't think we realize how much of our brain we don't use because something else is helping us. I love that. I love having all that because it makes me better as a person. But I also think if anything ever happened, when you talk about the doom thing and technology went away, I wonder, we still grew up at a time when we could solve things, but I think the next generations after us, I don't know if they know how to come up with these. Maybe they would because they wouldn't have a choice. I think when you're faced with no choice, you come up with solutions, right? But it's such a great experience to see that and to see the juxtaposition of these two worlds where, yes, you may not have the technological solutions, but you can still have solutions.
Right.
Which is
absolutely.
fantastic.
And just to take the question one step further, I would mention one other thing that for me was probably really life-changing. And that was when we had the opportunity to visit what's called the Davari slums, which is in Davari, India. I believe it's the largest slum. And I use that word cautiously. They use the word. To me, it feels a little inappropriate, but that's the phraseology they use. And they're proud of where they live. About 1 million people in the neighborhood of the slum. The conditions are, at least according to most Westerners, deplorable. There's virtually no infrastructure there insofar as electricity, running water, sewage, sanitation. It's a shocking experience. Initially, because you look at the infrastructure and you have to walk through alleyways with live wires hanging that you have to bend down to avoid. I may look at it with sadness, but then you get to interact with the people, and there's no sadness there. Everybody's got a purpose. Everybody's moving with purpose. People have jobs. They're mostly entrepreneurs because they have their home, and in front of their home, they probably run a business.
Right.
Tannery, for example, is a big business.
Yeah.
Recycling plastic in the Davari slums is a big part of their economy.
Which is fabulous because they're doing something that is actually good, practice.
Right.
And you would not think of that when you think of like, oh, people living in the slums. They're just as aware and they understand the impact of the environment on their life as well.
I walked past one person's residence and shop, and he was working on tourist luggage.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what he was doing for it. It may be just the finish work.
Yeah.
But, that's what a Fortune 1000 company doing business with people in India that you might not otherwise envision.
Yeah, because we envision factories and
Right.
people just slaving away. Well, that may not be the actual way. See, and that's the kind of experiences that you would have. As faculty, I think it's wonderful that Harper provides these opportunities for our faculty to see. It's not just for students, but our faculty go and have these experiences, which is really important. Bring that back, not even just to apply it straight to the classroom, but to have that knowledge within you when you are talking to students who may be from other countries, that you understand what their life experiences could have been like, and then bringing all that into the class, not just how do you create an assignment out of that. It's just even a mindset to have in class of understanding something else. And I think that it's wonderful that we have that opportunity at Harper to send faculty on that. We have one coming up. I'm excited. We're going to go to the MENA region. For those of you who may not know, MENA region is the Middle East. So we're Morocco and maybe some other one where they're still deciding on the second country because, it's not, not as stable in the Middle East everywhere. So we want to make sure we go where it's safe. But it's exciting to have these opportunities. So you did the GEC class before?
I did not.
Oh, you did not. You just went on the experience. Yeah.
Actually, what happened was somebody had to drop out.
What we do at Harper is we have a class. So the way that the program works, it's usually a year-long program, and you take a class where you're learning about the region. You do, you take a class like a student would, and then you get to have this experience to go. And I think this is what typically students do on their study abroads. And so we offer this version of a study abroad to the faculty. I think that if you're going to have a college that is interested in globalizing, like Harper is, this is fantastic.
Absolutely. Yes. And hopefully on an occasion, we can drill down into some of the specifics that we've been able to actually introduce in the classroom.
Yeah.
I know for now we're just doing background, setting the scene. Right.
If you were going to tell another faculty about this experience who are thinking about going, what would you tell them?
Unequivocally, yes. Everybody's got a personal circumstance, of course.
Yes.
For me, even given my discomfort with traveling, it was an easy decision. That experience trumps anything that might be viewed as an obstacle, in my opinion.
Okay. As a faculty, my concerns, not for me, but I lived with a Turkish toilet when I was a study abroad, which is, for those people who may not know, that is just, there's no toilet. It's just a space for your legs and a hole. So I lived with that for a whole year. So like I'm pretty open to just about anything. But I would worry if I'm going to a region less advanced than the United States. Europe might still be okay. I mean, Eastern Europe, you might have some more, but like generally Europe is okay. But you're going to India. Like, were you worried about food and bathrooms and how does all of that work?
Right.
How was that experience?
Right.
What would you say to a faculty who's worried about that?
Well, you mentioned the GEC course.
Right.
Absolutely fantastic. Rich with what to expect, history. Oscar and Ellie did a wonderful job. When I was called upon to join the group, I was able to access at least that information.
Okay.
Which was really, really a wealth of information.
Okay.
So there's a lot of hand-holding. I would say to an instructor who's considering it, it's probably less work than you might imagine because the planning is so thorough and detailed. We also partner, when appropriate, with outfitters in the native country.
Yes.
Because they know the nuances of safety, travel, etc.
Okay.
So we always had 2 to 3 people, natives of India, who acted as our tour guides, our protectors. There was always somebody walking behind us, making certain that we have everybody.
Yeah.
I felt comfortable.
Okay.
I felt really comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, with water, food, bathroom, those are probably big concerns that people have. How do you do that? When I went to Panama to explore a site for a study abroad, that was my question too. Like, can I drink like water here? And it was like, well, when you're in the big city, you can drink the water. Tap water is fine. Because they even tell you, don't brush your teeth with this water, because our bodies are just not used to the type of water they have, which is totally normal. So if you're, I think, this kind of experience, you were prepared for things like that.
Right.
Definitely. Okay, great.
Right. I would also mention that the accommodations for the faculty and staff were top notch. Regardless of what our day was like, our evenings were rather posh. I don't know if that's always the case, but I will tell you that we were well pampered in the evenings.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then if you were sent back to India, no prep, no plans, what's the first thing you would do?
Oh, my goodness. I would travel north to see the rest of the country. We were primarily in the southeast.
Yeah.
Because we wanted a representation of India.
Yeah.
And some cities are so unique that they don't really represent the entirety of the country. And so we were in the southeast region. I would love to go back and to the northern part of India.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you like their food?
The food was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And as a marketer, I had an interest in exploring perhaps the restaurant business or food. What I found is that a part of the Indian culture is the food, and that so much of India is historic and symbolic. Unlike in the United States, we don't tend to hold on to long traditions as they do. The cuisine tends to stay pretty steady as Indian cuisine. But like any country, they have other restaurants.
What did you see there?
I was fascinated to go to the international restaurants, the
So
Kentucky.
what did they have?
Kentucky Fried Chicken, for example.
Yes.
They were serving sandwiches.
Okay.
Bread is a staple item. Food is a staple item in India. And so you'll tend to see more breads than you would on menus here in the U.S., but they're customized for the palate of the consumers in the local regions.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
so what I might eat at a fast food restaurant might not be available.
Yeah.
The branding comes through. The culture still comes through, because those are marketers who are excellent at global strategy, and they understand how to accommodate for those different nuances. And so that was the fascinating part for me.
What American-style restaurants did you see? Kentucky Fried Chicken. What else was there?
McDonald's.
McDonald's, of course.
Right. And all of that was at a rest stop that wouldn't be unlike maybe a large oasis here in the United States.
Same experience in Panama. Like
Okay.
as we were driving, depends on where you drive, but when we drove in a more populated area, those kind of drive off, like we have the station, they don't have that exactly because their highways are not as huge as ours.
Right.
But I just saw one time like Starbucks and Wendy's. And I was just like, this is just like being in the U.S., places where you can go. They also had, which I found totally funny, they had a come and go, but it was in Spanish.
Right.
So you're missing out on the joke of the title. Or even the Americans who were with us did not know what a come and go. And then when I read it, I went like, this is a come and go. And that was one of their best stations. So like when we would drive and we'd have to go to the bathroom, they would wait for certain types of rest stops. We didn't go into the really kind of scuzzy ones. We have some of those in the U.S. too. So let's not kid ourselves.
That's right.
Those were like the better ones. So we would go to the come and go, and they were very clean and nicely organized. I loved the plantain chips. That was the thing that you bought at But they had everything. They had fruit. The best pineapple bought at a come and go to where we were going. And
thought.
who would have thought? They have never had pineapple like that in the United States. It was delicious.
Awesome.
Yeah. And at like a gas station, but they had fresh fruit available to you. I mean, everything. And a bunch of American products as well. It was just like an American stopover, definitely, like a 7-Eleven type of thing.
Yeah.
But, well, like a come and go, So what was the best food that you ate?
It was a buffet, and it had everything. So you're going to ask me of a particular dish, and I just would not be able to come up with it.
Had Indian food since you've been back?
Yes, I have.
Yeah?
Yes.
All right. So now you're you're familiar and you know what to order.
Our friend and colleague, Farouk, is exposing me to the best of Indian food in the area.
Okay, cool.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to have Farouk on the show too. He doesn't have a choice. He's going to come on.
You got to tune in then. He's wonderful.
That's right. He's our econ professor, and
Yes.
he is from Pakistan. He's going to be on the show. We're going to talk to him. Experience like this for faculty, for students, you're highly recommending?
Highly recommend it. From somebody who might have a little skepticism in the beginning, I have no regrets.
And if you're worried about traveling, still...
No sweat.
Yeah. One of the things, the beauty of going on a study abroad or any kind of globalization effort from a school is that, like Rob said, a lot of things are planned for you. You have activities planned. Your transportation is planned. Everything is planned out. You travel as a group. You have a cohort. You get to know people. And this is the beauty of being in that environment, because now you have, how many of you went to India? 8. So now you have 8 friends that you have a totally shared experience with that you can go back to. And if you were a student, you now have all these students that you know. Networking, this is how you get jobs, is through networking. So having these camaraderies that you build for having these shared experiences is wonderful. And then for faculty, it's great because now you get to know some faculty you may not have dealt with, right? Like from different disciplines, and learning together with them and what's important to them, I think is really just as...
That's a wonderful point. The time that you spend even outside of the formal activities is really rich time to get to know each other, to build camaraderie.
Right. And then you come back and maybe this is the time you're globalizing your class and internationalizing your classes. You now have partners that you can bring in with different perspective and different projects that you can do. And then, that enhances the student experience as well. So, awesome programs. If you're a college and you want to help your faculty globalize, send them on a study abroad, like an experience we have at Harper. And if you're a student, you should be going on study abroads, and we're going to talk about that during this podcast. But we are coming to an end, so I want to wrap it up. I want to say thank you for coming on and talking about your experience. I'm going to bring you back and we're going to talk about what did you do with this experience in your classroom, because that is really important. We wanted to get some background on what is the experience, how does it work? I want to wrap up today's episode of Global Education Unpacked with Marie Lapidus. Big thank you to our guest, Professor Robert Russ, for sharing the experience and insights. If you have enjoyed our conversation, please like and follow us on Instagram at Global Ed Unpacked. You can also catch the recorded show on our YouTube channel at Global Education Unpacked, and find the audio version on your favorite podcast platform. Global Education Unpacked is recorded live at WHCM Radio at Harper College and produced by Matt Byrne. Thanks for listening. Until next time, keep exploring the world through education.